Tonight, if you're hearing these words when the city has finally gone quiet, when the noise has retreated and only your own breathing remains, there's a strong chance you didn't arrive here by accident. Some videos people scroll past like lightning. Others make you stop not out of curiosity, but because something deep inside you vibrates, as if, I've heard this before. Do you feel that? A sensation both familiar and strange, like a memory buried for a long time, suddenly rising to the surface. In ancient Gnostic writings, there is a disturbing, haunting idea that the material world is not simply the home of the soul, but a structure, a system, a cage, engineered with precision. And inside that cage, there are wardens. Not necessarily demons in the way popular religion describes, more like administrators, regulators, harvesters of frequency. The ancients called them one name, Archons. If you've ever felt pulled down at the exact moment you tried to rise, if you've ever carried a kind of exhaustion with no clear cause, like something siphoning you from within, if you've ever noticed negative thoughts arriving in a way that felt strange, not like you, repeating like a scratched record, then tonight, I'm not asking you to believe. I'm asking you to listen as if you're opening an old door. And while you listen, do one simple thing. Place your hand over your chest. Put your palm at the center of your chest. Feel your heartbeat. No imagination required. Just feel it. In the Gnostic view, that rhythm is not only biology, it's a signal. A reminder that inside you there is a spark that never truly belonged to this cage. A spark of origin. And this is the part many never wanted you to reach. In the Gospel of Philip, a text once considered forbidden, there are passages that have confused scholars for centuries. It speaks about names in a way that feels almost dangerous, as if certain names are not labels, but frequency codes. A name, if it is the right one, can shift the air in a room. A name, if it is the right one, can send vibration through the bodies of those who hear it. And if it is the right one, on levels the human eye can't see, it can make the wardens tremble. Now picture a sealed room, an upper room, the door shut, no crowds, no noise, no people chasing miracles, no curious listeners collecting moral lessons. Only a small inner circle those believed capable of holding what is about to be given. Because if this gift falls into the wrong hands, it will be twisted, diluted, turned into an empty ritual. In this story, Jesus, more precisely, the central figure in this hidden tradition, stands before those closest to him, not to teach them to beg, not to tell them to kneel, but to hand them something else. A way to stand upright. This is the great divide between two worlds, the world of asking and the world of declaring, the world of pleading and the world of command. In the Gnostic imagination, what is transmitted in that sealed room is not a prayer outward, but an activation inward, a code that changes your state from the inside. Because if you are trapped in a system that feeds on low-frequency emotion, fear, guilt, shame, helplessness, then the most dangerous thing you can do is not rage. The most dangerous thing you can do is remember. Remember you are not a beggar. Remember you were not born to request permission. Remember you are a fragment of something larger. And when you remember, your frequency changes. You can control crowds with belief, but it's much harder to control a single person with recognition. Recognition is what hurts the system, because recognition does not require intermediaries. It doesn't need a gatekeeper. It doesn't need an institution standing between you and your source. And this is why every story like this contains an act of replacement. Replacing something active with something passive. Replacing a blade with a begging bowl. Replacing a declaration with a plea. Not because they hated the name, because they feared what the name could do when spoken by the right person. But wait, Before we speak about any true name, we have to understand why a name could carry power at all. In the Gnostic lens, the universe does not operate on morality first. It operates on frequency. Everything vibrates. Everything emits. Thoughts have vibration. Emotions have vibration. Words have vibration. And the terrifying truth is, most humans do not realize what they are broadcasting. Have you experienced this? You try to focus. You try to change. You try to step into a better version of yourself. And suddenly, at the exact moment you need strength, a thought slices through. You can't. You'll fail. It's pointless. It arrives fast like a blade, dragging you down as if someone flipped a switch behind you. You assume it's you. But the Gnostic question is different. What if it isn't you? What if it's a pattern, a program, a frequency designed to keep you low? Because in this story, the Archons do not defeat you through direct force. They defeat you through invisibility. They win by convincing you everything is yours. Your fear, your guilt, your procrastination, your self-sabotage. Once you believe it's all you never identify the warden. And when you never identify it, you conclude you're simply weak. But the day you realize, wait, a mechanism is running, in that moment, you stop being perfect prey. In Gnostic cosmology, there is a source at the highest level called the monad. Not a judging deity sitting on a throne, but a principle of unity, pure consciousness, undivided, beyond separation. And in this story, the material world is not created by the monad, but by a lesser architect of limitation, an entity said to design the system, while the Archons operate it. The key point, the Archons are not infinite. They are limited by their own frequency band. They function best when you are trapped in lack, fear, guilt, unworthiness. But there is a band they cannot touch. Unity. The state of, I am not separate from my source. Now return to that sealed room. In the story you shared, there is a moment when Jesus speaks a true name. A name not meant to make people worship a symbol, but meant to remind people how to stand upright. The moment he speaks it, the air changes. The disciples feel vibration move through their bodies. And beyond the walls, in realms unseen, the wardens tremble. Do you recognize what that implies? That sound is not merely sound. Sound is code. And code does not operate through belief alone, it operates through resonance. But here is the crucial truth. If you read a name like you read a word on a page, it does nothing. Because in this story, the name is only half. The other half is you. You are the resonator. You are the instrument. The name is the note. If the instrument is not tuned, the note will not ring. That's why the content you shared emphasizes 3 components. Not only a name, but a state. And I will keep that structure, only with a clearer and more cinematic voice. The 3 components are: first, recognition. Not belief, remembering. Remembering who you are before the world taught you to beg. Second, authority. Not social authority, not power over others, authority of origin. The quiet certainty of a spark that knows itself. Third, declaration. Not prayer, not pleading, not asking. A statement like natural law. This is what is true. You might hear this and think, it sounds dramatic. How do I know? In this story, you do not know by arguing, you know by practice. Because the system fears one thing more than believers, testers, those who verify for themselves. Now we step toward what your script frames as a hidden name, a 3-syllable frequency key linked to the idea, I am light. I'm going to keep the tone you want, mystical, cinematic, activating. But I also need one line of clarity. Don't turn this into a spell. A spell is still dependence. Still a posture of, if I say this, Something outside will rescue me. What you are doing here is shifting state from separation to unity. When you shift state, the words become a switch. So slow down. Inhale. Slowly. Deeply. Can you feel your heartbeat? If you can, you are here. And if you are here, you can do what comes next. Imagine something has been trying to make you forget who you are. It doesn't need to attack you every day. It only needs to distract you, delay you, drown you in doubt, keep you in self-erasure. If it succeeds, you will live your entire life like a person asking permission. In your story, the true name functions like a memory code. I am light, not the light of a bulb, not the light of the sun, the light of awareness, the light in you that never belonged to the cage. But don't rush to repeat it. Recognition must come first. What is recognition? Recognition is when you look at your life, the moments you were pulled down, and you say, "Hold on, I am not everything that runs through my mind." Recognition is when fear rises and you refuse to fuse with it. This is a wave, not my identity. Recognition is when guilt appears and you say, "This may have been planted to keep me low." If you can do that even 10%, you're already loosening the mechanism. So what is authority? Authority is not shouting. Shouting is fear. Authority is quiet certainty. Authority is a truth spoken without needing to convince anyone. Authority is the "of course" of gravity. It's the firmness of someone who no longer kneels. And what is declaration? Declaration is a sentence that does not beg for outcome. It establishes a position. This is where I stand. And when you stand there, anything that survives by your collapse loses its access. Now, your script also includes a dramatic history. Texts buried, burned, hidden, then discovered. I'll keep it because it's powerful for voiceover. Picture an empire that needs a single religion to govern millions. To unify, it must remove anything that makes people stand upright without intermediaries. Because upright people are harder to control. Upright people do not need permission. Upright people do not need layers. And so, manuscripts that threaten the model of dependence are condemned. Communities are hunted. Scrolls are burned. Words are replaced. But truth has a strange habit. Sometimes it is buried, not to die, but to wait. To wait for a time. To wait for a person. And then, centuries later, a sealed jar is pulled from the ground. Inside, words that have slept for 1,600 years. Words that waited. And when those words are opened, it's as if a whisper travels across time. We hid this for you. Now remember, that image alone is enough to carry a full cinematic segment. But the most dramatic truth remains. No one can do this for you. Some will hear and forget. Some will comment and sleep. And a very few will listen. Place a hand on the chest and do it tonight. The difference is simple. The third group does not consume information. They participate. Now we move into the practice, what your script frames as a 7-night sequence. This is where the voiceover becomes truly immersive. Tonight, before you sleep, find a quiet place. No candles required, no incense, no props. Don't let the system trick you into believing you need objects to access your own origin. Objects create dependence. You only need your body, your breath, recognition, and a declaration. Sit down, spine straight but not rigid, hand over your heart, and take 3 slow breaths. On the first exhale, release the name the world calls you. Not because it's wrong, but because tonight you touch what existed before names. On the second exhale, release your roles: child, parent, lover, employee, boss, victim, strong one. Release them. Roles are masks, useful, but not you. On the third exhale, release your failures. Release the loops of self-accusation. Release the inner voice that said, "You're not enough." Now you are empty enough to remember. In this moment, begin the recognition. Imagine a small point of light in your chest. Do not force it. Just acknowledge it. That point of light is what carried you through. It's what refused to fully surrender. It's what kept asking, "Something is off." That light is what this tradition calls the spark. And then you speak the three-syllable name not as a test, not as a chant, but through 3 steps. Step 1. Speak it like remembering. Step 2. Speak it like standing upright. Step 3. Speak it like declaring a fact. You do not need to yell. You do not need to strain. Speak from the chest. Let the vibration touch the sternum before it leaves your mouth. And when you speak, do not stare outward for rescue. Turn inward for activation. When you finish, remain silent for 7 breaths. Those 7 breaths matter more than you think. Because that's when you observe. Does your mind react? Does it try to mock this? Does a thought arise like, "This is nonsense"? Do you suddenly feel bored, sleepy, distracted? Do you feel the urge to postpone until tomorrow? In the style of your script, those reactions are part of the mechanism. When you approach the door, the system pulls you back with doubt, ridicule, fatigue, and distraction. It does not need to prove you wrong. It only needs to keep you from doing it. That's why this is not 1 night. It's 7. 7 nights to carve a new path. 7 nights to train the nervous system out of begging. 7 nights to teach your body a new way to stand. Night 1. You may feel nothing. Don't judge. The system loves early judgment because it makes you quit. Night 2. You may sleep deeper or dream more vividly. Don't cling to the dream. Just notice. Night 3. Something subtle shifts. Negative thoughts still appear, but they don't hook you the same. They pass like clouds. Night 4. Your body can feel lighter, not excited, not manic lighter, because less is pulling. Night 5. You start recognizing signals earlier. The moment before drama grabs you, the moment before self-sabotage, the moment before procrastination takes over. When you recognize earlier, you can choose differently. Night 6. The strangest part, you stop needing to prove anything. You simply stand. Night 7. In the logic of this story, the door opens. You know not believe there is a state where what once clung to you can no longer cling. Not because you fought, because you shifted frequency. You became harder to catch. And here is the confirmation your script points toward: other people's reactions. After 7 nights, you may notice certain people become uncomfortable around you. Not because you harmed them, but because you no longer resonate with their low-frequency hooks. You're harder to guilt, harder to provoke, harder to manipulate. And when you stop reacting like before, the mechanism inside them loses a switch. You may also notice patterns weakening, the bad luck loops, the sudden collapse right before success, the mysterious resistance right when you try to improve. They may not vanish instantly like a movie, but they begin to loosen clearly. And here's the open thread you requested. This name is only the beginning. Behind it are other codes, other mechanisms described in Gnostic texts, methods for sealing before sleep, cutting intrusive thought loops, holding frequency in crowds, recognizing when a signal is not yours. That's where your next videos can go. But tonight, your only mission is this: do not let this become theory. Because theory is the Archons' favorite place. Theory gives you the feeling of "I know," while your life remains unchanged. So do it simply. Hand on heart, 3 breaths, release roles, remember the spark, speak the name as declaration, then silence for 7 breaths. And for a cinematic ending, this is the final strike. Right now, before you turn off the screen, ask yourself, if there is a system that survives by making you forget who you are, what is the most dangerous thing you could do? Not rage, not rebellion, remembering. Remembering enough to stop asking permission. Remembering enough to stop praying from lack. Remembering enough to speak from the chest, not to convince anyone but to establish your stance. Because where you stand determines what can reach you. You have begged, you have knelt, you have blamed yourself, and maybe nothing changed. Not because you are unloved, but because you broadcast the frequency of separation and you made yourself visible in the band where the wardens work. But when you speak the name with recognition, authority, declaration, you change bands, you rise, and there are forces that cannot follow you there. Tonight, you begin. Tomorrow, you repeat. 7 nights. Do not chase fireworks. Watch for the subtle shifts, the space between stimulus and reaction, the breath before you fall, the awareness before you self-sabotage, the calm second when everything tries to push you into fear. Those small changes are the sign that the system is losing its grip. If you want, leave a quiet vow in the comments. I begin tonight, not for validation, for memory, so you can hear yourself. Then turn off the light. Sit in silence, hand over heart. 3 breaths, the spark, and the declaration. You don't need anyone's permission to return to what you came from. You only need to remember you belonged to it from the beginning. Tonight, begin.